This has been a very upsetting day for me.
Undoubtedly, Sir Simpson, you are referring to last night's theft of the two De Kuyper paintings from the National Gallery.
You've heard?
All of London has heard.
Tell us, what do you know of this unfortunate affair?
Well, about 6 months ago, July 1st to be exact, an auction was held at Armitage's gallery for the two new recently discovered De Kuypers.
I'd never heard of the artist before reading the newspaper this morning. Who was he?
A student of Rubens, and until recently, there were only 6 of his paintings in existence.
Who owned those 6?
4 were in the Louvre in Paris, 1 in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and 1 in the private collection of Lord Winslow Smedley of London.
How did you hear of this auction?
From Brady Norris, my head curator. I immediately gave my authorization to purchase the paintings.
Well, how much did you pay for the paintings, Sir Simpson?
£125,000. No paltry sum, to be sure, but decidedly less than what we had anticipated.
I had no idea art could be so costly.
People are awed by anything which they believe to be rare.
Indeed, and that is why I was determined to bring together the known De Kuypers for a show. The respective owners agreed, and in 2 days the exhibition was to have opened.
Tell me, Sir Simpson, how well was the De Kuyper show publicized?
Oh, it has been common knowledge for weeks.
And when were the other paintings to be hung in the gallery?
Tomorrow.
Where are the other 4 paintings?
The Louvre collection is at the French Embassy under the care of Monsieur Beauclerc, and the Rijksmuseum's De Kuyper is in our storeroom.
And Lord Smedley's?
Well, we were to pick his up in the morning at his London townhouse.
Thank you, Sir Simpson. I think we have all the facts we need to begin now. I hope we shall be able to clear up this matter in a very short time.
Hello and welcome to the optimal playthrough of the Pilfered paintings. Now, during the introduction video, we learnt about this auction at Armitage's, and we also learnt that it was Brady Norris who told Sir Simpson about the auction. And we also learnt about this exhibition, which would have placed these two newly discovered De Kuyper paintings alongside the original 4. So we have a few locations that we can visit, but let's investigate the National Gallery, where the theft took place.
There were 4 of us on duty when the theft occurred. Our shift starts at 4 p.m. and upon our arrival we prepare the gallery for its closing at 5. Now on the day of the robbery by 5:15, all the employees of the gallery had left for the day, with the exception of Sir Simpson and Mr. Norris.
Was that unusual?
No, sir. It is their custom to remain until the gallery is secured. I personally let Sir Simpson out through the main entrance at 5:30. Mr. Norris stayed on because he was expecting a delivery.
What time did the delivery arrive?
I'd say it was 5:45 when our comings and goings wagon arrived. Charlie and I helped Mr. Norris and the deliveryman unload 1 large crate and 2 smaller ones.
Do you know where these deliveries were from?
Well, I'm not sure about the larger one, but the 2 smaller ones were from Jardines.
What happened after the crates were unloaded?
The deliveryman left. Charlie locked and barred the loading dock door. Mr. Norris went into the storeroom to check his shipment, and I returned to the guardroom.
Did you see him open any of the crates?
No, sir, I didn't.
What happened next?
At 6:30, Mr. Norris informed me that he'd locked the storeroom and would be leaving for the evening.
And you let him out?
Yes, sir, through the main entrance. Then I made my rounds through the office wing, checking all the doors to make sure they were secured.
And how did you spend the rest of the evening?
Looking after my rounds. I took the 11 clocker through the east wing. At about 11:10, all the paintings were in their proper place in Gallery 12. Then Charlie made his rounds, following the same path that I'd just made, except when he arrived at Gallery 12, the 2 De Kuyper paintings had been cut from their frames.
What time was that?
I answered his alarm at 11:35 and sent him to check the loading entry in the office wing.
Have you any idea how the thief got into the museum?
No, sir. The only keys to the outside doors are kept in the guardroom or in the custody of the patrolling guards. Sir Simpson and Mr. Norris are the only staff members who have keys, and even they only have keys to the inside doors. Well, that's all I know. I hope I've been of some help, sir.
So we've learnt some interesting facts from the National Gallery. Firstly, that Mr. Norris actually stayed on behind because of a delivery that was due, but he could have let the staff take control of it, but he stayed on personally to make sure it arrived and was taken in safely, and specifically taken to the storeroom. The two small crates were traceable back to Jardines, and we have learnt that the large one was an unknown. And we learnt that Norris went into the storeroom. No one knows what he did in there. No one knows what was inside those crates. And he personally locked the door before he left. And we discovered that the guards have keys to the outside doors. They don't actually have keys to the inside doors. Only Sir Simpson and Brady Norris have keys to the inside doors. So they would be the only ones to actually be able to lock and unlock the storeroom. So our next point of call will be to Armitage's, where the auction took place.
Mr. Armitage, can you give us the details leading up to and including the sale of the De Kuyper paintings?
Let me see, it was early June. I received a visit from Hiram Davenport, a London solicitor. He informed me that his client had 2 new De Kuyper paintings that he wished to auction.
I assume you checked the authenticity of the paintings?
Yes, as always, everything was in order. He had in hand a certificate of authenticity signed by Pierre Dernay, the well-known De Kuyper expert.
Did you meet Mr. Davenport's client?
No, I dealt only with Mr. Davenport.
What can you tell us about the auction itself?
Mr. Davenport's client set very strict conditions regarding the sale. The auction had to take place on July the 1st, and the public announcement was not to be made until June 23rd. Just 1 week to prepare. And as if that weren't enough, Mr. Davenport informed me that the paintings were to be sold as a pair. A pair!
Odd. Wouldn't the seller be able to fetch more for them if they were sold individually?
Unquestionably. It was a strange request.
And how did the auction turn out?
Due to the short public notice, many of the big bidders did not show. Mr. Brady Norris, curator of the National Gallery, was the successful bidder, as you know. I must admit that the paintings brought more than I had expected.
Do you have any idea why that was so?
Undoubtedly because of the energetic bidding from Sir Herbert Kaufman and Dame Agnes Smedley.
And this is where we learn about the strict conditions of the auction. And one of those conditions was that the advertisement of the auction was to take place only a week beforehand. And this was to make sure that some of the big names didn't have enough time to organise anything to actually attend. But people still attended. And we also learnt for the first time about Sir Kaufman and Dame Agnes Smedley, who both seem to be very interested in these paintings. So next location that we're going to visit is the Jardine Matheson and Company.
The shipment of Nubian art consigned to the National Gallery was delivered to Wells Warehouse at 38 Blackfriars Bridge Road on the instructions of Mr. Brady Norris 5 days ago.
And this is where we find out about Wells Warehouse.
This one is most intriguing, Watson.
What have you unearthed this time, Holmes?
This warehouse was rented by Matthew Cole. Until yesterday, that is.
And we can find out more about Matthew Cole in the newspapers, specifically from this article just here. And this confirms that Matthew Cole is now dead, and the fire at this point in time is unexplained. But there's one person who we can speak to who can give us some more information.
Sir Jasper, could I trouble you for a few moments of your time?
Always a pleasure to help, Watson. But I must admit I'm not much of an art buff.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about Matthew Cole, the chap that died in the fire.
Yes, well, he may have died in the fire, but according to my autopsy findings, he definitely did not die because of the fire.
What?
Not a trace of smoke in the chap's lungs. No, I'd say the nasty bump on his head was what caused his demise.
And this is where we find out that he was murdered. Now, we can speak to H.R. Murray from the criminology lab, as surely he would be able to give us some more information about this too.
Excuse me, Dr. Murray. May I have a moment of your time?
Ah, Whitson. So nice to see you again.
It's Watson, sir.
Glad to hear it. Now, what can I do for you, Whitson?
Holmes and I are interested in the debris from the fire of Matthew Cole's hotel room.
Aye, such a tragedy. Everything was soaked with kerosene. No doubt this one was arson. Not much left to analyse. I found a key in his pocket. No number on it, though. Ah, but there was one other thing. A piece of canvas oil painting.
An oil painting?
Aye, it was smeared with Prussian blue paint.
Oh, may I have a look at it?
No, sorry. I sent it over to London University for my brother Mortimer to examine. He's a professor of chemistry, you know. An expert on paint pigments.
So what we learnt here is that Matthew Cole's room was soaked in kerosene. So not only was he murdered, they also set fire to his room as well. And the key that was found had no numbers, so that points to it being a copy, at least. And the piece of canvas oil painting is very suspicious indeed. So he seemed to have paintings in his room. And the fire is probably linked to it too. But anyway, let's speak to Mortimer Murray.
You are mistaken.
Science does not lie.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Monsieur Murray, I am one of the world's greatest experts on De Kuyper, and I tell you this painting was painted by the hand of De Kuyper.
Mr. Beauclair, I am not an art expert.
You stated the obvious, monsieur.
But I am an expert on paint pigments and their chemical composition. And I tell you that any painting containing Prussian blue isn't from the 17th century. The process to create Prussian blue had not yet been developed. That paint cannot be more than 30 years old.
You don't know what you are talking about.
Good day, gentlemen.
So, Pierre Matin claims to be an expert on De Kuyper paintings, and he seems to confirm that the canvas found in Matthew Cole's room is by the same person who did the paintings, well, the original paintings that are still around at the moment. And Murray also confirms that these paintings must be forgeries. And we have two more locations to visit. Let's visit our friend Langdale Pike, as he's a very, very sociable fellow.
Ooh, my poor head. I believe I overdid it at Dame Agnes Bash last night.
Did you hear anything there that might be of interest to us?
I heard many things, Holmes, mostly from the chattering mouth of Pierre Donnet, world-renowned expert on De Kuyper. He has managed to do shockingly well for himself, considering 20 years ago he was a starving artist. But then his ship came in.
Whatever do you mean?
In 1872, he discovered the first De Kuyper in a church attic in Brussels. Soon after it sailed to Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, he began a whole new and extravagant life. I suppose that's why he can afford to keep a luxurious suite at the Langham Hotel.
Did his discovery of the De Kuyper catapult his own work into the spotlight?
Hardly. Ooh. In fact, Donnet has never sold a painting done by his own hand.
And that confirms that Pierre Donnet was pretty much a nobody until De Kuyper came along. He was a starving artist and had never sold a painting by his own hands, but suddenly he discovers this De Kuyper fellow, and he is a celebrity around these places. Now, this last key location, if someone can actually provide me with a logical link to get straight to it, then I would be very welcome to that. as if we visit Kaufman directly, we get someone, I believe one of his staff, answering the door to tell us that he is either at the Carlton or at Brill's Baths, which is just here. But I do not know at this point in time how to get the name the Carlton from the newspapers, and I'm pretty certain we did not hear this name mentioned from any of these other locations.
Sir Herbert, were you not one of the bidders at the Armitage auction?
I was bidding for someone else.
For whom?
Can't tell you that. If they wanted to be known, they wouldn't have hired me, now would they?
What was your relationship with Brady Norris?
We went to Oxford together. What of it?
Was he a student of art there?
Yes, and a rather good one, too. Brady and I once discussed opening our own gallery. For me, it would have been a mere business venture, but for Brady, well, he always wanted to control an enviable collection.
Well, that he has realized his dream. As curator, he certainly must do that now.
Not really. Everything Brady does must be authorized by Sir Simpson.
So what we've learnt here is that Kaufman and Brady Norris have known each other a long time as they went to Oxford together. They have both previously discussed about becoming business partners, and we have also found out that Brady Norris was trying to put together a impressive art collection, but with Sir Simpson in charge, he was pretty much powerless with his position at the gallery. And we've also learnt that Kaufman was bidding for someone else. So whether it was for the same person, well, when I say he was bidding for someone else, I meant he was not bidding for himself. But we don't know who it was. It could have been for the same person who actually bought the paintings, or it could have just been a decoy to drive the price up. Anyway, that is the 9 key locations, and that is the score that we need. So let's take this to the judge.
Hear ye, hear ye. The Queen's Court stands in order. So it is the National Gallery theft that brings you to my court, is it not? Well, then permit me to ask, who was the thief who lifted the decipers from the National Gallery? Remember to choose either from your notebook or the directory.
And we already know that this is Matthew Cole, as remnants of one of the paintings was found in his hotel room.
Indeed, it was the petty thief who perished in the fire. Now, who put Matthew Cole up to the foul deed?
And we've worked out that it was Brady Norris, as well, it was Matthew Cole who was renting the warehouse at Wells, and it was Brady Norris who ordered the delivery to come from there. And Cole just happened to have the paintings and a key on his, well, I say on his person, but in his possession when the hotel room caught fire. The key was actually blank, but as I said, it could have been a copy. It probably was a copy. So Norris is pretty much the only person who could be in the frame here.
Splendid! Now tell us, if you can, why the decipers were stolen.
It's got to be the forgeries, as we've pretty much learnt that the decipers were fake. And I'm guessing Brady Norris discovered this as well. That's why he wanted rid of them.
That is correct. Good show. Now tell me, if you can, who killed Matthew Cole?
Again, it's got to be Brady Norris, as he was the one who put Cole up to it. And Cole is probably the only witness.
First theft, then murder. Ah, what a tangled web we weave. Now, please inform the court as to Pierre Donet's involvement in the case.
Pierre Donet's involvement is that he was the original painter. We don't know anything about Hypsilanti at this point. And even if he did paint Summer Solstice and Blue Unicorn, all the paintings were apparently done by the same hand. I mean, even if some of these were true, this is the actual answer.
Such an unfortunate waste of talent. Now for your final question. Can you tell me what part Sir Herbert Kaufman played in this affair?
I probably should have mentioned as well in the last question that we know that the paintings are forgeries, and we know that Pierre Donet was the discoverer of the first Decaiper paintings, and that Pierre Matin pretty much confirmed that the painting in the fire was by the same person who did the original paintings as well. But anyway, that's a bit too late to explain now. We are on the last question now, and that is Sir Kaufman's part. And as we know, he was there just to do some bidding.
Splendid! This was a tough case and you cracked it. Excellent job. Court is recessed. Until the next time, of course.
And there we have it.
An extremely difficult case, and your score is absolutely perfect. I'm quite sure we could not have done any better.
And that's it, a perfect score. So as I said before, the only issue I have is the carton, really. And that could have been explained somewhere along the way. Like, I mean, Langdale Pike could have mentioned, well, you can find Kaufman at the carton kind of thing, but it is what it is. So let's go straight to the solution and hear how Holmes worked it out.
The best way to begin, Sir Simpson, is to give you a factual account of what has happened. To start with, there are no Decaipers.
What?
They're all forgeries. Forgeries done by one very talented, egotistical man, Pierre Donet.
But how can you be sure?
Prussian blue paint. You see, a scrap of the stolen canvas was analyzed, and it turns out that that particular paint pigment was not in use during Decaiper's lifetime. Sticky wicket.
You know, Holmes, if Donet was such an expert, then why did he use Prussian blue?
He was an artist, not a chemist. He slipped up. And fortunate for us that he did.
But however did you know it was Donet? And why did he do it?
First of all, Monsieur Beauclerc, who has seen all the Decaipers, insisted they were all done by the same hand. And interestingly enough, every sale was initiated by Donet.
Surely no coincidence.
Indeed. Pierre Donet is a very talented artist, but he couldn't make his living at it until he created Decaiper. He wrote his biography, painted his paintings, and the art world went wild.
Making Donet a very rich man in the process.
What happened next must have given Donet great personal satisfaction. Brady Norris, not knowing that all the Decaipers were forgeries, approached Donet, the forger, and proposed that he forge 2 Decaiper paintings.
Certainly he came to the right place.
One can only imagine the willpower it must have taken for Donet to keep a straight face. Ah, but how could he pass up such an offer?
But why did Norris do it?
He had his eye on the directorship of the National Gallery, and he was hoping that such a brilliant acquisition as the Decaipers would put him in the forefront after your retirement. Also, he split a tidy sum with Donet right after the auction.
Oh, my.
So, everything went according to plan until you upset it.
Me?
Yes, by arranging for the Decaiper show that would bring together all of the Decaipers.
I don't understand.
You would be putting a spotlight on the 2 recently purchased by the gallery, and naturally the paintings would be compared. That was the last thing Norris wanted to have happen. Remember, he did not know that the other paintings were forgeries.
And no discrepancies would be revealed because they were all painted by the same hand.
Very astute of you, Watson.
Elementary, Holmes.
So Norris took part in the theft?
He masterminded it. You see, he became so fearful of being found out that his only solution was to remove the evidence from view. He hired Matthew Cole, a minor thief, to help him.
But how did Cole get into the museum?
In a crate Norris had delivered to the museum. He locked the crate containing coal in the storeroom and slipped the storeroom key under the door. He then left the rest up to Cole.
Oh, Matthew Cole? Wasn't he the chap who perished in the fire?
Yes, a fire set by your own Mr. Norris.
Ghastly. Why did he do it?
To destroy the evidence and his only witness.
The most complex and devious series of deeds. I am speechless.
Brilliant, Holmes. This was a tough nut to crack.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
And there we have it. I will be starting the Murdered Munitions Magnate very soon. But for now, this case is now over. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.